duty as overseers and legislators. President Biden is fulfilling his duties. Secretary Mayorkas is doing his job. If the Republican majority doesn't like what they are doing or how they are doing it, they should get off their soapbox and work with Democrats to pass bipartisan border security and immigration legislation. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields. Other members of the committee are reminded that opening statements may be submitted for the record. I am pleased to have a distinguished panel of witnesses before us today, and I ask that our witnesses please stand, raise their right hand. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you will give before the Committee of Homeland Security of the United States House of Representatives will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God. Let the record reflect, please have a seat. Let the record reflect that the witnesses have answered in the affirmative. Thank you. I'd like now to formally introduce our witnesses. Mr. Jones is an internationally respected border intelligence expert with decades of experience on the southwest border. He is a retired captain for the Texas Department of Public Safety's Intelligence and Counterterrorism Division and has supervised human intelligence operations in multiple nations, including leading the longest 24/7 border operation in Texas history, Operation Secure Texas. He was responsible for leading multiple investigations targeting Mexican cartel leadership and collaborating closely with the U.S. intelligence community to save numerous lives in both Mexico and the United States. Ms. Vaughn is Director of Policy Studies for the Center for Immigration Studies, a DC-based research institute that examines the impact of immigration on American society and educates policymakers and opinion leaders on immigration issues. She's been with the center since 1992, and her area of expertise is immigration policy and operations, covering topics such as visa programs, immigration benefits, and immigration enforcement. Ms. Vaughn is an expert on immigration enforcement and public safety, having directed a Department of Justice-funded project on the use of immigration law enforcement and transnational gang suppression. Prior to joining the center, Ms. Vaughn was a Foreign Service officer with the State Department, where she served in Belgium, Trinidad, and Tobago. Mr. Maltz is a retired special agent for the Drug Enforcement Administration, who dedicated 28 years of his life to service. He is currently working as a national security and public safety executive who appears on national news networks as a subject matter expert. Mr. Walls was the special agent in charge of the United States Department of Justice Special Operations Division for almost 10 years before he left the federal government. Mr. Maltz also previously held the position as the chief of the New York Drug Enforcement Task Force, which is the oldest and largest drug task force in America. Ms. Felbeb Brown, did I pronounce that correctly? Is a senior fellow in the Strobe Talbot Center for Security, Strategy, and Technology in the Foreign Policy Program at Brookings. She is the director of the Initiative on Non-State Armed Actors. She is also the co-director of the Africa Security Initiative and the Brookings series on opioids, the opioid crisis in America, domestic and international dimensions. Previously, she was the co-director of the Brookings Project, Improved Global Drug Policy, Comparative Perspectives Beyond UNGAS 2016, UNGASS 2016, as well as another Brookings project, Reconstituting Local Orders. She is an expert on international and internal conflicts and non-traditional security threats, including insurgency, organized crime, urban violence, and illicit economies. I thank the witnesses for being here. I now recognize Mr. Jones for 5 minutes to summarize his opening statement.
Chairman Green, Ranking Member Thompson, and distinguished members of the committee, I'm truly honored to be here in our nation's capital to talk to all of you today about, without question, what is the most significant national security threat and public safety threat to the American people in this country, and that is our common enemy, the Mexican cartels. After retiring from the Texas Department of Public Safety, I was so frustrated that what was not getting out about their evolution, I decided to do it publicly myself. And so today I am on your border every other week, riding with law enforcement, trying to illuminate their activities and the impacts to the American people. What you have not been told is that these are no longer drug cartels. They have evolved from organized crime in 2006 into an insurgency in Mexico. And I was there on the ground with people, and we were stunned at what we were seeing. At 6 to 10 hour gun battles with 50 caliber belt-fed machine guns, 40 millimeter grenade launchers, RPGs and LAWs, rockets, as they truly were fighting back against the most elite special forces in the Mexican government. This was the insurgency. And what brought that about were the Los Zetas. They brought two forms of discipline. The Los Zetas were former GAFE special forces who came to work for Cartel de Golfo. And what they brought was discipline and tradecraft. And from that, every other cartel was then forced to create an enforcement wing and rise to the occasion or fall. And that is why you see such wide variety of violence, hyper-violence across Mexico today. In 2010, another major tripwire, and that is when the Zetas began executing mass migrants and Mexican citizens. You may remember the 72 migrants killed in San Fernando. I worked that. The 300 men, women, and children killed in Allende, chopped into pieces, and then guisoed, because the Zetas had a saying that you can't count a body that doesn't exist. And then the final evolution, as we see them today, into a true parallel government in Mexico. What was the indicator when that happened? 2015, Operation Jalisco, when their most elite soldiers went in to get El Mencho, the head of Cartel Jalisco New Generation, and they were shot down. When we went after Ovidio Guzman in 2019, and the Mexican president of the country was forced to release him. What you weren't told is because the Sinaloa cartel, Ivan, the head of the Chapitos, had so many people's heads at knife point ready to cut them off if the president did not release him. This is where Mexico is. So how does that impact you here, and how does it impact Americans today? I am telling you with everything I am, if we do not designate these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations, or at least get the tools of national power, the 100,000 Americans that we are losing year after year to date is just the beginning. The cartels will not stop because they can't stop. This is what you're not told. The U.S. intelligence agency should be briefing you. They do not fear you. They fear their rivals. And the reason they continue to escalate in hyperviolence and incapability is because if they don't, then their rivals could completely take them over. Today, they've evolved again. In February of 2021, I broke this story. This is the adjustment, ladies and gentlemen, from the smuggling of people by Cartel de Golfo into the trafficking of men, women, and children. These are wristbands that Cartel de Golfo, and each one represents a different alien smuggling organization, who began moving them into the country under debt bondage. We have never seen this before. What I'm holding in my hand before you today, I want to be very clear. This is America's new slave trade. And now we have moved these people throughout the country for the best means, but we have sent a virus of debt bondage across the nation. And I'm happy to talk to you about that as I broke that story in February of 21. Finally, I want to say to you this, is they will continue to increase because they have to. Validation to all of you. Look at fentanyl as a great example. The fentanyl that we're seizing mostly in the streets now is not regular fentanyl. They've gone from regular fentanyl to parafentanyl to serafentanyl, and now introduction of xylazines. You've got 4 more xylazines coming on board. Get ready. China, they've already evolved around them. The last part of this I'll say, because I know I'm running out of time, is that you have to take aggressive action. Texas has spent $9 billion to fight the cartels, and it's still not enough. What we need are authorities beyond the law enforcement capability. And the mothers and fathers across this nation, the indicator to you that this government is on the right track to end this problem in this country is when we designate these cartels, or at least get the tools of national power and go after them. Thank you all for having me today.